I could not get lean for years. I was a bloated disaster, looked like this. And then, in not too long a period of time, I ended up being the most shredded guy in the look sphere, easily. Diabolically lean, perhaps 7%, 8%, I don't know exactly. And I wouldn't recommend going that far, but the things that I did, the way that I did this, it can be applied to, if you're a guy, you know, if you're trying to get to 10%, 12%, it can of course be used for that. So I'm going to talk about a couple different points related to that journey and what that looked like. So PSMF was the diet that I was doing, 1,000 to 1,200 calories. In my case, I did it in 2 meals, and you can look up what PSMF is. My food choices were chicken tenderloin and chicken thighs, certain algae related reasons for that. And I used Primal Kitchen sauces for more palatability and for potentially grams of fat, so I could absorb certain vitamins with certain meals, especially if I was having chicken tenderloin, which doesn't really have much fat at all naturally. That was the meal structure. Now, what about hunger management? GLPs changed my life. And everyone's on GLPs. No one's 7%. And so it's not like that's, you know, the sole causal factor here. But they did change my life. I don't have a physiology that allows me to get lean. I won't fully get into it. And so GLPs is one thing. And then every morning I had a Ghost energy drink. Not good for the gut. You know, stimulants aren't great in general. Energy drinks with artificial sweeteners, it's not ideal. But I did that every morning, which definitely helped me push, you know, at least to lunch. And then occasionally I would push until 4 or 5 p.m. and then just do one meal of kind of a slightly bigger meal than usual, maybe 600 calories, 700, 800. And so then my daily total will be a little bit less than usual. That was the meal structure. And I was very, very locked in, where when you do PSMF, you think it's going to be more difficult, right? The calories are super low. The consensus seems to be that it's easier. I mean, one, just the progress being so fast, it's self-reinforcing, it's amazing. But I think when you're in a slight deficit, your hunger does not really adapt like it could, because you're so close to maintenance that you just end up being hungry. But PSMF is such a radically different state than usual, where your body does actually, you know, at least in my case, in a lot of people's cases, you have more dopamine, more adrenaline, and you're just very locked in, very motivated, very wired. And, you know, what's ironic is that my hunger was the lowest it's ever been on some of those 900 calorie days, lower than days where I would binge junk food and eat high calories. So very paradoxical and huge benefit of PSMF. So anyways, that can probably get its own video, PSMF, but highly recommend it for pretty much anyone losing weight. A huge point that I need to mention as well is that part of what made it very difficult for me to get lean in the past was sleep. Again, my physiology, bad for being lean, so I'd get high cortisol after a few days of deficit eating, and then I just wouldn't fucking fall asleep, or wake up way too early, wake up in the middle of the night and unable to fall back asleep. And I would just cave, you know, I'd overeat, I'd binge eventually, particularly before GLPs. And so using a lot of sedatives was a game changer. And yes, it comes with waking up sedated. It comes with the morning grogginess, or really all day grogginess, which the Ghost energy drink in large part remediated. But I was using heavy doses of sedatives, sometimes stacking sedatives. Now, what I'm about to say, you probably can't do this through a doctor, and I'm not recommending anything. But if there is an individual that doesn't want to develop a tolerance to a single sedative, you can rotate mechanisms of different sedatives. So there's trazodone, kind of its own class. There's the antihistamines, hydrazine, and there's the over-the-counter ones like doxylamine. Diphenhydramine is Benadryl. It's shorter half-life, so not ideal, and it fucks my skin the next day. It's insane. It makes it all parched. It's ridiculous. So trazodone, antihistamine, there's the benzos class, harder to procure, but that's its own class. I think it works through GABA or something. And then there's this other one, gabapentin, which despite the name, it actually works apparently through the calcium channels, which is the same thing, you know, the popular substance pregabalin works on. So there's those. I probably would not do THC. It just wrecks sleep quality pretty severely. And all of those, I think for the most part, they're going to make your sleep quality worse in certain ways. Gabapentin might be less bad in that regard. I think I dream more on gabapentin, but pretty much all of them, you're going to wake up, you know, groggy, not feeling great. And it kind of depends on the type of drug and your response to it and the dose and everything. but that was a game changer to at least be able to get a few hours of sleep most nights. Now, realistically, getting extremely shredded, if that's what you want to do, or if you're an actual fitness competitor, physique competitor, it's going to be hell on earth. You know, there's going to be days where you will use high doses, multiple sedatives, and you will not be able to sleep. You know, you'll sleep 3 hours, you get up, you have your energy drink or stimulant, it doesn't do much for you. You feel terrible and discouraged, but you need to push through until your first, meal, potentially waiting until lunch if you're doing it like I recommend. And it's so tough. You have to be so determined. You have to be so determined if you're getting lean, but let alone extremely shredded. And so for me, my entire life during that period kind of revolved around this goal, because it was just the euphoric process chasing that and seeing how insane I was starting to look, how diabolically chiseled my face was getting for the first time ever, more than I could ever believe. And when you understand that my face was bloated for years and that was a constant struggle and insecurity that I could not overcome, I just could not get lean, it makes sense why I wanted to see how far I could push into Jordan Barrett territory, basically. So that was a journey for me. That's what my days looked like. And it was also self-reinforcing, the kind of mythical journey I was building with my looksmax.org updates, and then in my school group at the time, getting hammered and just, being able to show my progress and how I was just leaner than anyone else out there. It was just absolutely insane. That was my journey getting to 7%. And there's so many different things I could talk about. It was a long journey, very difficult. There's so many different things that go into it. So many different nuances. For example, I was at 10% for months before I could finally get to 7%. And that could even be its own video. I think the big difference was I was having like kind of one refeed, but really more like a binge per week. And that just ended up kind of wrecking my progress, because when you start to get shredded, if your weight's getting lower, then your maintenance calories already drops because you just have less mass on your body. So less calories needed to maintain it, but then also adaptive thermogenesis, at least in prolonged dieting to an extent, let alone when you actually get really, really shredded. And that's why bodybuilding competitors, they might have 1,800 calories and then they're doing a ton of cardio. So it's really like 1,200 calories. And that's kind of what I was doing, 1,200 calories, just not the cardio, because I didn't really want to eat food and then have to burn it off. It didn't really make sense to me. And then my hunger would have been higher if I did that, both due to the cardio and just due to not being in full PSMF, so I could fully adapt. That was my journey getting to 7%. And hopefully I can answer some questions, help some people out. I've helped some people get lean, based on my advice. And those were kind of the key things for me. GLPs, the PSMF routine, morning energy drink, morning stimulant, and then sedatives were a huge thing that I think is not really discussed, because that might be why a lot of people fall off the wagon. It might make you wake up feeling terrible, but at least you can get a little bit more sleep than you would have otherwise, at least kind of get through the night most nights. And again, this gets so much more extreme when you're actually getting deeper into single digits. If you're just getting to 10%, 12%, then PSMF can be a relatively steady road. And for me, it was, going from a complete disaster to being respectably lean, that was not incredibly difficult. But 7%, that was more just kind of my own personal mythical arc that I just had to pursue based on my history of being unable to succeed with that endeavor. And I'm glad that I did it. I'm not that lean anymore. I don't know if I'll ever get that lean again. It'll just make me way too gaunt, especially the structure I have now. But that's what it was. So let me know what questions you have. Just wanted to get this video out there. I wish I could have posted it Saturday afternoon. That's the best time. It's going to be, I think, Sunday super late Pacific time, LA time when I post this. I've been exhausted all day, hard to get stuff done, but just want to get this out there. Didn't want to skip a week of YouTube just because of suboptimal posting times. So 7%, it was insane. That's what I learned from it. That's how I did it. Those are kind of some things that I would recommend, or that I'm just saying worked for me. So again, reach out to me with questions, Spectrum Aesthetics 3, and stick around for more content on all platforms. Appreciate you guys, and increasingly you girls as well. I love helping everyone. Hope you all have a great rest of your day.